Hey kiddos, I want to be able to talk to you a little bit about the Industrial Revolution as it pertains to social studies. As you saw, I put on as an assignment today, which is Tuesday, a ReadWorks passage about the Industrial Revolution. Now, a lot of you might have automatically thought, oh, this must be like another war, because we recently learned about the American Revolution and talked about how revolution is a fight for change. It is, except in this case, it's not necessarily meant to be as a fight, but Industrial Revolution is all the changes in industry. So factories, like machines were invented that just made life easier. And it was such a booming time. There was no fighting, there was no war. This does not involve a war. But it was a time of change, revolution, in industrial. Okay, so I'm going to read part of this lesson to you guys, and it might help just give some insight, and you'll also get a little bit of a better idea of the kinds of things that were going on during the Industrial Revolution. Now, to give you an idea time-wise, this is like from the early 1800s to the mid 1800s, like the 1800s to 1850s. Okay, so again, I'm going to read aloud for you a little bit. There's no assignment with it except for your ReadWorks one that is already posted. I'm just reading the lesson to you, so it feels like you're in class. Okay, the Industrial Revolution. Isaac Singer was not the first person to build a sewing machine, but in 1851, Singer family finally figured out how to build one that worked well. Using his sewing machine, people could make clothing much more quickly than they could by hand. Singer opened a factory in New York City to manufacture sewing machines. To manufacture means to make goods by machine or by hand. So to manufacture literally means to make it. Okay. New inventions such as the sewing machine were part of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a change in the way that goods were made. Before the Industrial Revolution, people made goods at home by hand. During the Industrial Revolution, people began to manufacture goods in factories using machines. New machines helped Troy, yes, the Troy not far from here that you're familiar with, became a manufacturing center during the Industrial Revolution. At the Troy Iron and Nail Factory, Henry Burden invented a machine for making iron horseshoes. Burden's machine could make one horseshoe every second. Another Troy inventor was Hannah Lord Montagu. She knew that it was very hard to wash shirt collars. In 1827, Montagu invented a detachable collar, or a collar that could be taken off of shirts and then put back on. Taking the collar off of the shirt made it easier to wash. Troy factories began making detachable shirt collars, and Troy was nicknamed Collar City. It's still true today. You might see companies in Troy that have a name attached to it, like Collar City something. One of the bridges that goes from Troy to Albany across the Hudson is called the Collar City Bridge. I'm not going to read this whole page to you here, but these are just some examples of different things that were being made around New York State at this time. You'll see over here is the Ticonderoga pencil in Ticonderoga. In Rochester, they were known for big water-powered mills that ground wheat into flour. Syracuse was known as Salt City because since they were surrounded by natural salt springs, they would boil the water and they produced salt. New York City obviously was a huge location for manufacturing, and thousands of young women found jobs making clothing in New York City. One negative about the Industrial Revolution is the working conditions were not very good. They were very hot, very crowded, not really safe at all times, and even children worked at this time. So although we were doing great in the economy where things were being made and quickly made and bought and sold, there were some negatives too. And then at the end here, I'm just going to read you a little bit about some writers, some authors during this time. Inventors were not the only ones with new ideas in New York. Some of our country's first famous writers were also New Yorkers. In 1819, Washington Irving published a story called Rip Van Winkle. In this story, a man named Rip Van Winkle falls asleep for 20 years. You can read part of the story below. I'm not going to. Another popular Washington Irving story is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. In this story, the main character comes across as a headless horseman. Some of you might know that because you like that weird, creepy stuff. James Fenimore Cooper grew up on the New York frontier. As an adult, Cooper wrote adventure stories about life on the frontier. In 1826, he published his most famous book, The Last of the Mohicans. This book tells the story of settlers and Native Americans in New York during the French and Indian War. Another New York writer was Mary Mapes Dodge. When she was in her 20s, Dodge began writing children's books. Her books, Hans Brinker or The Silver Skates, is still popular with young readers today. So, that's a little tidbit info on the Industrial Revolution, along with what you're going to read from your ReadWorks passage. See you later, guys.